suppose that you just wanted Mexican food, tonight. You're hungry, you want to get it. So what are you going to do? Well, you're going to go over and you're going to say, okay, well, maybe it's location. Let's find out where there's one in the area first. Then logistics. How would we get there? Is it close enough to walk? Do you need to take a cab? Maybe Roman numeral 3. Do they take credit cards? Do we have enough cash? Maybe stop by an ATM. Roman numeral 4 might be personnel. As I'm going out the door, I'll see if any of you want to go with me. But hurry up. Now, does that mean in terms of priorities that I don't like people or socializing? No. That's where people and socializing sits in this scenario in terms of priorities based upon what the vision is here. Now, if I wanted to sign a business deal, where do you think personnel is going to go? Oh, numero uno, right? So these things and these components are not good, bad, or indifferent. They're only that relative to whatever you're trying to accomplish. But that then informs organization. So assuming now we've got it organized, so whatever your dinner tonight is, you got it kind of components and kind of how we're going to approach it. What's the fifth and final stage your mind will go to? Assuming you want to go out to dinner, what's the fifth thing your mind will focus on? Can't help it. What's the next action? How do I reallocate resources to make this vision happen instead of something else? That's what the next action is. Okay, what's the reallocation of physical resources? So if I get it down to, Mexican food, and I get it down to, first thing I need to find out is where is there one? How would I do that? Well, the people that work in the building here, they may know the neighborhood. Let me walk out and find somebody who knows the neighborhood. And watch, I'm going to reallocate 170 pounds of human resources. I'm going to start walking my physical body out that physical door, taking a real next action that emerged naturally out of my organization, which itself was formulated after my brainstorming, which was triggered naturally by my vision, which was triggered naturally by my purpose within my values. That's how I'll get a fajita. That's how you do anything. It's how you eat, walk, talk, sleep. It's how you do everything. Come on, follow with me real fast. Ready? I'm hungry. Sure would like something hot to eat and cold to wash it down with, as long as it's hot and tastes good and, affordable, kind of close. What could I do? I don't know, get Italian, call out for Chinese, walk down to the health food store. I could get some Mexican food. That sounds cool. Never had that. Haven't had that for a while. But what's the weather like out there? What about people to go with? Where is this something? Let me just see if there's one in the neighborhood. How would I do that? Let me go ask. Did you get it? 5 recognizably different stages of focus and horizons to focus on that takes an original intention and makes something happen physically. Caught it? Now I know the big question is, so what? Here's the so what. That's the natural model. Is that the normal model? Is this how your wedding was planned? Is this how your department was restructured? Is this how your church committee was deciding to, the cake sale? Maybe not. See, one of the things I discovered in my, years of ancient wisdom is that natural ain't necessarily normal. As a matter of fact, one of the things I've noticed, especially in the professional world out there, is what's a lot more normal is what I call the unnatural planning model. What's that? Well, it kind of goes like this. Now this wouldn't happen in your current organizations, but in some of the others you know about, okay? I'm your boss. I brought you all into the room. Why? I'm excited because I finally read the book, Participatory Management. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Oh, wow. I'm excited. And I brought you all in. It's the first time. You're all Team Widget, right? And I got a banner, Team Widget. And you're all thinking, this is a little unusual. The first time everybody in this project has all been in the same room at the same time. That's a little unusual. But you walk in, and I'm up here kind of excited, and I got whiteboards and easels and overheads, and I'm excited. And you're all going, damn, what got into David? He didn't take another seminar, did he? Sure hope that seminar leader wasn't from California. But I'm undaunted. Right? So then I'm ready to go. So I got, okay, Team Widget here. Okay, on this project. Who's got a good idea here? Yeah, that's usually what happens at this stage. There's kind of a sifting out of the group of who's willing to raise their hand, take a risk, and say something. Right, so let's say Abe raises his hand. So I say, Abe, what do you think? Well, Abe says, well, David, I think what's really important on that project is what we need to do is yabba dabba dabba. Well, I got my own ideas about yama dabba dabba. But I'm not going to say anything because we're going to participate. Well, thanks, Abe. I appreciate that contribution. And I write Abe's idea up here. Little tiny. I say, okay, who else has got a good idea here? There's always somebody who waits just the right amount to make their political move. Right? Let's say Louis raises his hand and says, Louis, what do you think? Louis says, I don't think Abe's idea is the way to do that. Because I really know on this project what's a lot more important is what we really need to do is yabba dabba dabba. I happen to agree with Louis. Louis, great thought. Oh, thank you so much. God, what a good idea. And then I write Louis's idea up here. Now, if you had X-ray vision psychologically, look inside of Abe, how do you think that probably feel? Something slightly akin to thud. Abe, however, being cool, doesn't go thud. He either throws back a bigger spear at Louis, or more than likely will sit back, fold his arms, and go, I think I'll wait a minute before I say anything else. Now, everybody else in the group, none of whom had the risk-taking ability of either Abe or Louis to open their mouth to begin with, all watch that little shooting match go on. Everybody folds their arms, sits back, and goes, ooh, glad I didn't say anything. Especially with my boss in the front of the room. You go, okay, who else has got a good idea here? In the back row, they're already going. Come on, team, let's go. Team, let's go. Who else? Come on. And then people move into typical corporate meeting behavior. How come I can't turn on the people? How come I can't inspire them? How'd they do it in the books? Must have a bunch of jerks. What do you think my gut level perception of the participatory process is going to be now? It don't work. I'm the one opened it up. We had a brainstorming session. They're the people who didn't play. Now, I may have exaggerated slightly here, but how many of you caught a slight ring of familiarity to this scenario in other organizations, not the ones you're in? Okay. Oh, come on. God bless them. This is universal. By the way, I've done this seminar, and a lot of those companies you'd see listed as the best companies to work for, and every one of them goes, God, you've been here. Don't kid yourself. This is pretty universal out there in terms of this stuff. And come on, let's not blame anybody. This gives this guy an A+ for having his heart in the right place to try to do his best, but give him an F for throwing your brain into a very unnatural state there. See, in that situation, where was I demanding that your brain already be in your focus on this? In order to answer the question, what's a good idea here, that means you need to already have this project what? Any of you hear a business-like question, what's the best idea here? Where's the business-like section? Organize, right? So in order to know what the best idea is, we have assumed that you know why we're doing it, how we're playing, what the vision is, and generated every single potential relevant idea or not so that you can possibly hope to know what's best. But if I frame it so the expectation is that you have a smart idea before you have ideas, you're going to blow a fuse. It's a very unnatural way for the brain to think. Yeah, so it's the organizing phase that oftentimes people come in and say, okay, how are we going to do this? Have you ever been in those situations? People come in, okay, come on, let's have a good idea. How are we going to organize this project? And God bless them. I understand the intention for that. But there's still a whole lot more that might need to come in. Otherwise, you might find this is not the most productive way to think through something. What happens, and let's not blame this guy, come on. But let's put the blame where it really lies. Mrs. Williams, 4th grade. For most of us in this room, the only formal education we had about how to plan and organize on the front end happened about the 4th or 5th grade. And even if it wasn't the only education you had about that, it was probably the most emotionally impactful, which means it sunk the deepest in your psyche, right? Because about the 4th or 5th grade is when you and I learned to write reports. Right? Some of you are there. And Mrs. Williams, she had to teach us, it's in her lesson plan, in order to write a successful, well-organized, professional, adult kind of report, what did we have to write first? Okay, you sensitive little 9-year-olds. You're about to have a major emotional experience with planning and organizing on the front end. You're going to see how easy it is, how natural it is, how effective it is, and how much fun it is. Are you ready? So listen up, kids. It isn't the implicit assumption this is how you become a successful professional adult. Okay, so listen, kids. The way you become a successful professional, well-organized adult is You start with the title at the top. Then, kids, you're going to have some major headings. And those are going to be 1, 2, 3. Under that, you're likely to have some major subheadings. By the way, that are not as important and big as the major headings. They're just major, but they're major subheadings, and those are the capital A. But do you know what unnameable things would be done to you if you only had an A without a B? Listen closely, kids. You have an A? Damn well better have a B. Now think for a moment what that demands of your mind. That says before you can have any ideas about anything, you got to have 2 good ones of equal value simultaneously. You can't even do it now, much less in the 4th grade. Okay, you've got an A, you got a B, got it. Now under that, kid, you're likely to have some subheadings. That's your little 1. And little 2, you'd flunk with just 1. You could have 3, but not 1. Now under that, you actually might have your subheading. That's your little A and little B. We looked at that, I looked at that and went, damn, looks good to me. That looked great. It looked to me like Indeed. If I were to fill all that out to begin with, I should then be able to sit down and write an elegant, well-organized report. Mrs. Williams, thank you for this key to a successful, well-organized, proactively tackled adult life. Now, she didn't leave well enough alone because she sent us home with an assignment that night to have a real experience with this planning model and how effective it is and how much fun it is. But she sent us home that night with our assignment. And our assignment was to write a report about ducks. But we had to outline it first. Remember, we had to turn in those outlines with the reports prove we'd done them too, right? So man, was I excited. I got home, I got my big pencil, my wide line paper. Hey man, I'm gonna learn, I'm gonna get organized. I'm gonna learn to plan, and I'm gonna be an adult. All right, let's see. Okay, we're on a roll now. Wasn't that the most agonizing part of your educational experience you ever had to endure, was staring at that piece of paper? Did any of you ever have little drops of blood drop onto the paper? After a while, some of you got good enough to know that's got to be intro. Some of you actually learned intro body conclusion. For you, 1A was your hang up, but for virtually every one of us in this room, within a very few moments of your first and major psychological experience with planning and organizing, some part of us deeply short-circuited, emotionally, mentally. Deeply short-circuited. Hey, now I learned how to write good outlines because I had an internal comfort zone and standard about good grades. And if you have an internal standard about good grades, you don't have many other standards. Some of you know what I mean. I want a good grade. Got to get a good grade. How do I do that? What do they want? They want a good outline? Okay, I'll give them one. As a matter of fact, my reports followed my outlines perfectly. Guess why? Oh, come on, you did it too. How many of you in here ever filled in an outline after the fact? There's a testimony to your educational system and what it taught us about planning and organizing. No, really. And a lot of people still look at my system and go, you're so organized, don't you ever have fun? Where's your creativity and your spontaneity? Do you understand where that comes from? Because that stifled that. It was unreal. That was the only model we had about planning and organizing. Hey, let's do the hyperbole on the other end. You go to the Far East, you want real spontaneity and creativity, you'd better dedicate not one lifetime, but about 45 to master simplicity and discipline before you have the possibility to even taste what real spontaneity is about. So there's kind of the hyperbole on the other side. And what happens then is, unfortunately, this became people's reference point. And that was so nuts. You know, it was hard work. It didn't have much to do with reality. We lied and cheated. By the way, if I walked into a lot of your organizations, you know what I'm going to see? A whole lot of outlines done after the fact to please somebody don't have anything to do with what anybody's doing that afternoon or what they're inspired about. They're often referred to as goals and objectives. Pull yours out. Let me see the plans, the goals, the objectives. Who's got the projects? Who's got the actions? Who cares? And I'll show you something you learned about the 4th grade and probably didn't change a lot in terms of how we relate to that process. And it took a long time for me to do it because that was so unnatural. Then what happens is people don't plan. I didn't either. Because it sucked. Technical terms. Oh, come on. You know what most of you get what I'm talking about. But then what happens when you don't plan? I love these people who say, I don't want to plan my vacation because it's my vacation. Great. Did you get the tickets? I didn't get the tickets. Weren't you going to get? Most people need half their vacation to rest from the trauma of the 48 hours before they leave. Well, gee, that's fun. Anyway, so then what happens is people don't plan. It falls on their head, and then they have to deal with it. And out of all integrity, they do, but they deal with it with the unnatural, the reactive planning model. They deal with it with the reactive planning model. What's that? Well, the other stuff doesn't work. We tried the unnatural one, it didn't work. Now we just wait till the world falls on our head. Now watch this, see if this isn't familiar. What's the very first approach people take? Very first approach people take. Don't worry, this is all just part of the planning model here. Okay. The very first approach people take, it falls on their head. Hey, sky's falling. First approach people take is, we need to get busy and work harder. More activity, more overtime. You're not working hard enough. Then you get a whole lot of busy, burned out overtime, stressed out people thrown into the situation. But have you ever been real busy but you ran into somebody else that was real busy? Hold on, I'm busy. Me too. Like bumper cars out there. At some point, this gets more sophisticated. Somebody's going to realize that a whole lot of busy, burned out overtime, stressed out people ain't handling this situation. They're going to go, wait a minute. We need to get... Oh, you're catching on. Okay, let's take all the busy, burned out, overtime, stressed out people. Let's put them in some little boxes and label them. Even better, new little boxes. Relabel them. Okay, you're now going to be called this division. We're going to move your office over here, and you're going to matrix to this person, but you're going to kind of communicate to that person. You ever tried to get puppies in a little box? You squeeze one in, two crawled out the other side. Wait, come on back. Hang on. It takes so long to get consensus about how to redraw your boxes. Competition ate your lunch. And at a certain point, somebody's going to realize that just drawing boxes around a problem don't handle a problem. Now they're going to get more sophisticated. They're going to go, wait a minute. We need to get more creative input. We need to get more creative input on this thing. How do we do that? Well, the troops are the ones who are out there. They probably know. Let's get them in. Everybody in the room? Yeah. Who's got a good idea? Then you're kind of back at square one. And if you don't get much input from there, you go, well, they either got a bunch of jerks, the process doesn't work, or if they're more gracious, they assess that, we must have just used up all of our internal creativity. Dried it up on the last reorg. Can't get blood out of a stone. We still need creative input, though. Guess we have to get it from the outside. Time to hire it's consultant hiring time in the reactive planning. Guess why I know this one so well? It payeth rent. So now you're bringing this high-priced, high-power consultant. This consultant sniffs around. Now, this consultant, if they're worth his or her salt, at a certain point they're going to stop and ask a question. A question for which they've gone to many years of school and read many esoteric management books to understand the value of this question. They're going to ask a question for which they paid gigabucks of cash to understand the applicability of this question. At a certain point, this consultant's going to go, excuse me, what are you folks trying to do anyway? No wonder we pay consultants so much money to straighten us out. What a good question. What business are you in? What a question. Who are your customers and what do they think you do better than somebody else? You folks understand it's not a question of whether you do this model, it's a question of when and at what cost. You'll get there. Just go how painfully or how elegantly you want to get there is up to you.